Okay guys, if you haven't watched my latest video, basically last year I went to America, and in this video I'd like to go through my top 20 roller coasters that I experienced on that trip. So let's get into them. In at number 20, we've got Kentucky Flyer at Kentucky Kingdom. This is a little gravity group woody, and it was really fun, packed with multiple airtime moments. A real surprise that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because when I first saw it I thought it looked so small. It really delivered and came through with more thrills than anyone would expect from a coaster this size, and yeah, really enjoyed it. Can't recommend this ride enough, so I thought it deserved a spot on this list. In at number 19 is one of the most iconic rides on this list, and it is Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. Gatekeeper was one of those rides that I really didn't know what to expect from it. After having done a fair few of the B&M wing coasters, I built up a kind of anticipation of what the ride was going to deliver, and my first ride I found it kind of underwhelming. It is a very underwhelming thrill ride, but in terms of how beautiful it is, just gliding around, you're right on the front of the water. That's why it's my number 19. In at number 18 is CORNBALL Express. Now this is probably the most surprising installment on this whole list, and that is because Indiana Beach, personally, I did not find it to be a particularly great park. It's more of a traditional boardwalk park in America. It would be good if it wasn't, you know, like thousands of miles away. The reason this ride surprised me so much was the fact that I'd been on Hurricane, which is the bigger wooden coaster in the park, and that was really bad. I think I had 2 goes on it to make sure if I really didn't like it, but no, it was awful. But CORNBALL Express was really good, had great airtime, and I loved it. Definitely one of the highlights of the trip, and definitely in that park. In at number 17, we have RAPTOR at Cedar Point, which is a B&M invert, and these aren't particularly rides that I go for, but RAPTOR was definitely one of the most picturesque, definitely the biggest one I've ever been on. And also I think it was the most intense. It did have a couple of moments where it does proper jolt you around, and that's kind of uncomfortable, especially in that seating position, but overall it was a fun ride. Okay, in at number 16, just one spot ahead, we have another B&M invert. This is Batman the Ride at Six Flags St. Louis. Now a couple of days before I'd been on the Batman the Ride, the original one at Six Flags Great America, and that was so intense. Like ridiculously intense, to the point that I came off it and I instantly felt sick, and I never get that on rides. And B&M inverts are known for being intense, but because I didn't enjoy the one at Great America because of it, I was not expecting to enjoy this one as well, but I really did. It was a great ride, great layout, nice tight packed elements, and it wasn't too intense, but it was still quite intense. But yeah, very enjoyable ride, and would recommend it. Okay, and at number 15, now this is where we're getting into the rides that were good, but they weren't as good as they were made out to be. MAVERICK at Cedar Point is overrated as shit. I enjoyed it, but I really wouldn't rush back to it, and every time someone's asked me about it, it's been like it was okay. I'm not denying that it was good for a second, but it really was not anywhere near as good as stuff like Taron or Carnan, or even stuff like Helix and Icon. I prefer all those rides. Very good layout. Restraints were a bit uncomfortable, but enjoyable and definitely worth a spot on this list. Okay, and at number 14, sticking at the same park. Now this was the vice versa. This was the ride that I was expecting to be shit, but really surprised me with how good it was. It is rough, it is uncomfortable, it does hurt your legs, but it's so much fun. For a classic ride, this was so good. Completely surpassed my expectations, and I hate to say it, but it was a lot better than most rides at Cedar Point. Sometimes just don't write the classics off, because this was brilliant. Okay, in at number 13, it's Thunderbird at Holiday World. Now Holiday World was one of my favourite parks on the trip, but this was also one of my favourite rides, and one of the biggest takeaways from me. This ride, I don't know how there's only one of them in the world. It's a launch B&M wing coaster. Every part of it delivered for me. It was intense, it was fast, the launch was hard hitting, it was smooth, it had not the slightest rattle to it. It was just a breath of fresh air. It's beautiful. Every single part of this ride I cannot big up enough. It was comfortable, the elements were brilliant. This vertical loop on the screen right now was absolutely fantastic. But the thing that surprised me the most was how much the launch actually impacted the ride. Like, you actually felt it. It's an LSM launch, so they're not known for being particularly hard hitting, but this one was the exception to the rule. Absolutely fantastic ride, and make sure you do it at some point. 10 out of 10 from me. Okay, in at number 12, it's Max Force at Six Flags Great America. Now, this is the only air compressed launch I've ever done, and all I can say is the speed is instant. It feels like you go from 0 to full speed in a split second. It was absolutely fantastic, but way too short. Definitely needs to be a bit longer, but a great ride nonetheless. Okay, in at number 11, we have Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom. All I can say for this ride is amazing airtime, fucking painful. This ride is so airtime filled that it brutalizes you. If you're wanting a couple of rides on a great ride, this is the one for you, but don't expect to be able to marathon it because it does hurt. Completely the same as Thunderbird. How in the hell is there only one of these in the world? These should be popping up at all sorts of parks. Absolutely fantastic ride, and I would love to see more of them, and I think they'd be very popular with the public because it's a small ride, so it doesn't look that intimidating, but it really packs a punch. But as I say, a great ride, just don't do it too much because it will hurt. Okay, just barely scraping the top 10, we have the Legend at Holiday World. Now, this ride really surprised me because you go to Holiday World for another ride that we'll talk about later on in this list, and you don't really give the other rides a second thought when a park's that famous for one ride, but the Legend really surprised me. It's a secret pocket rocket, and it was absolutely fantastic. Great airtime as well. Okay, now we're getting into some famous rides. In at number 9, we've got Millennium Force at Cedar Point, one of my biggest bucket list rides. I know in terms of bucket list rides, this is a bit of a basic choice, but this ride for me was something I'd completely hyped up. I was ready to be disappointed, and it lived up to every bit of hype. The first drop on this is absolutely insane. As you hit the bottom of that drop, the speed that you pick up, and all the way throughout the ride, it is just, once again, a breath of fresh air. Absolutely loved it. In at number 8, we have one of the most unusual coasters on this list, and it's Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast at Six Flags St. Louis. Now, this ride for me, I was expecting to maybe get on it once because I'd heard that it had so much downtime. Every single time that I went there, it was operating. I didn't see it go down once. And I also expected to not really rate it, but it was a fantastic ride, really enjoyable. Like I say, it was unique, it was weird, but I really enjoyed it, and I can't recommend it enough. Great ride. One negative thing that I will say about it though, the seat design is absolutely awful. The shin guards on it, if you're tall, good luck. You can have the skinniest legs ever, you can cross your legs, put them in any position, good fucking luck. Your shin guards does exactly what it says, it guards your shin. That was the worst part about the ride, but apart from that, I can't fault it. In at number 7, we've got an underrated gem. Apparently this is a ride that every single person in the world seems to hate, and it's Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America. Apparently this ride has no airtime, but I felt it. I thought this ride had loads of airtime, especially on the back. The front, granted, it doesn't have much airtime, but that drop, when I first saw it, I was like, the hills are going to be good, but the drop might be a bit weak because it's really not that steep. Oh my God, was I wrong. That drop, you are flying all the way down it. Absolutely love the ride, just great fun. Okay, in at number 6, to go along with the theme of great ride but painful ride at Kentucky Kingdom, it's Storm Chaser, an RMC. Now, RMCs I know have been bigged up as these rides that they're amazing, but they do hurt your thighs. I didn't really get that on the other ones. Oh my God, this one is the complete opposite. This ride is brutal, in a good way in parts, but is brutal. Some parts of the ride are really graceful. After this big airtime hill, there is an inversion and you feel completely weightless. You glide through it. It's a beautiful moment. But after that, bang, you are into this little camelback and it throws you to the side and also throws you up. It is brutal. If you like brutal airtime, my god, this is the ride for you. It was good though. Okay, we've got to the top 5 and going to a slightly more graceful RMC, we've got Goliath at Six Flags Great America. This was actually the first ride of the trip and it's in the top 5. It was absolutely fantastic. The elements on this ride, I will say it was a bit too short. I really enjoyed it. The stall on it was absolutely fantastic. The dive loop was amazing. Absolutely fantastic ride. Smooth as silk and not painful at all. The drop was also incredible. Great way to start the trip, and it's definitely one of my favourite coasters that I've ever ridden. Not too sure where, but I did really enjoy it. Number 4, we've got the second B&M Hyper on this list, and that is Diamondback at Kings Island. Now, again, same as Millennium Force, this is a massive bucket list coaster for me. I've wanted to do this for so many years. The splashdown element's very famous, and it completely lived up to every single bit of hype I had for it. Great layout on there. I know B&M Hypers are known to be a bit boring. They are very up and down, but it's such a graceful ride. So enjoyable, not painful at all, offers thrills, amazing airtime. It was a little bit rattly, but on the front row you could not feel a single jolt. And the best thing about this was on the day at Kings Island we had Fast Pass, so I was on this so many times, and I even got a night ride as well. Okay, we're finally at the top 3. Now, this is one of the tallest rides I've ever done, and it is Orion at Kings Island. This ride for me was same as Diamondback, same as Millennium Force, a massive bucket list coaster. As soon as it opened, even though people said that it was underwhelming, I just loved the look of it. It's a beautiful ride. It looks incredible. When you walk up to Orion's whole area, it just has a presence to it. It's just so vibrant and completely pops in the skyline, and it was worth every single bit of waiting. This was probably the ride on the trip I was the most excited for, and what can I say, that element before the brake run proper flings you out your seat. Amazing airtime, amazing ride, the easiest 10 I can ever give. Okay, same as Maverick, let's talk about overrated rides. Is Steel Vengeance overrated? Yes, of course it is. Nothing's ever going to live up to that hype. Is it still amazing? Yes. As much as I hate to admit it, as much as I hate to go with the crowd on this, Steel Vengeance is a 10 out of 10 ride. But, first time I came off it, I was on the front row and I came off very underwhelmed. I was like, that is really not that great. The airtime didn't hit that hard particularly. There were many hills where I was like, those are kind of duds, to be honest. But then I went on it on the back. It was next level. Every hill hit, and it didn't actually hurt my legs as much as I thought it would. I went on it at night. Wow, that is where Steel Vengeance is at. It is definitely a night ride. It was flat out insanity, and I enjoyed every single second of it. Overrated, but still absolutely fantastic. Loved it. Okay, I don't even care if I'm overhyping this ride. This ride is flat out perfect. We're at number 1, and it's the Voyage at Holiday World. This is probably my 3rd favourite coaster I've ever ridden after Taron and Carnan, and it's amazing. It completely set off the 14-year-old nerd in me, and I was like a kid at Christmas. This ride was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. It's so sad that the reality is I'm probably never going to do it again because it's in the middle of God knows where, and I am just so glad that I got to experience this ride. Airtime, airtime, airtime. If you love roller coasters, if you ever get the chance to go out, please do it. You will not regret it. Because as good as the last 19 were, none of them beat this. Okay guys, thank you for watching my latest video. I know it's unusual for me to do a theme park related video, but there might be a few more over the next few weeks and months as the new America video is out. Please go and watch it if you haven't already. Yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of it, and if you're American or if you've been to America, let me know what your favourite rides over there are. I'd love to know. See you later.